Hey guys, I'm actually coming at you in the future after we've already put together our code generation stuff. However, there is a bit of a problem with our code as it stands right now, and basically, the way that we fixed our RPC framework to work with Photon, we broke it with the test. The tests will no longer run because of an issue that I introduced into the code. And that was a small oversight on my part, and it was especially an oversight that I hadn't continuously ran the tests after every single code change, which is what you should do, and I didn't. Anyway, what I did was I rolled back the project all the way back to where it should be, where I'm going to insert this video, because I'm going to insert this video before the code generation stuff, and I want to get this stuff out of the way. I also want to point out that these tests are going to break again after the mini-series about code generation. I haven't quite figured out the strategy that I want to use to make the test run again after the code generation stuff, but I'll figure something out and I'll record a video and that'll be awesome. Okay, so basically what is the problem here? The problem is that Photon likes to change the types of things when they are sent over the wire. So what do I mean by that? Well, let's say that we send a list object over the wire, over Photon. On the other end, it's going to pop up as an array. And that's going to be problematic because we now have kind of a lopsided thing where we send a list in and then Photon gives us an array back. Now, we wrote the code the way that I fixed this code, because this was a problem a couple videos ago. I can't remember how far back it was a problem, but it was a problem. And the way I fixed it was, on the receiving end, I changed the type to be what Photon expects it to be. In that case, a object. So what am I talking about? Inside a Buzz MMO client, inside of the systems namespace, we have the systems class. And apparently I didn't roll back hard enough because I'm getting an error on the Castle Dynamic Proxy. Give me a sec. Actually, those errors that you're seeing with the Dynamic Proxy stuff, that is ReSharper. Probably because I removed the Castle Dynamic Proxy reference. ReSharper's cache hasn't updated yet, that it came back due to the fact that I rolled back the entire repository. And since the ReSharper cache is not part of the repository, it didn't get rolled back. So it still thinks I don't have Castle Dynamic Proxy added, so I'm going to get an error from ReSharper everywhere that appears. However, everything still compiles, everything still works the way it should. Just ignore the errors about Dynamic Proxy. Just a heads up, if you ever do run into problems like this, the solution is to delete your ReSharper folder. So if you come here, if you open up your solution in File Explorer or Windows Explorer, whatever you want to call it, jump back into your source folder. Basically, the solution here would be to remove that ReSharper Buzz MMO folder and restart Visual Studio. That would get ReSharper's cache to be, well, deleted, and it would recreate the cache based off the up-to-date information, which the up-to-date information is that castle.dynamicproxy is available. Anyway, so yeah, I was talking about where the problem is. Now, the problem is in two places. The first place is it's going to be, actually, it's not in client systems. It's in systems operation writer. Now, first problem is going to appear right here in our parse response. Now, in our parse response, we have this line right here, line 52, where we basically extract our operation errors and we turn it into a list of string. And we use the operation errors to send information out. So yeah, that's where the problem is first. The second problem is the receiving end, or not the receiving end, the sending end. And that's going to be located down in client context, I believe. And scrolling down, we have right here. So these two lines are kind of the same thing, or just on different ends. They get the same data, but one's on the server, one's on the client. So this is what I'm highlighting at the top, is where the operation errors are set. And on the bottom, where I'm highlighting on the bottom, this is where the operation errors are received. Now the problem is that when we're running tests, we're running this in memory, meaning this exact object gets put into this dictionary. In fact, these two dictionaries, this response parameters dictionary and this parameters dictionary, are literally the same object when we're running in memory. Because in memory, we don't do any serialization or anything that would change the types. We literally pass the dictionary off from the client code to the server code. But in production, it's a little bit more complicated because Photon has the job of taking that dictionary, serializing it down, sending it over the wire, and then deserializing it. And Photon serializer, deserializer, unfortunately, changes types. So we have to ask ourselves, okay, so what type is this that we're sending on the server? Well, the type is a list. Now, I'm hovering over operation errors, and you might say, well, it says it's non-enumerable. Well, that's the static type. The actual type of the object is a list. The instantiated concrete type is a list. How do I know that? I can simply control-click on operation errors, and I see that operation errors is indeed a list of string. So that is the actual object type of this thing that we're stuffing into the dictionary. What do we expect? Well, here we're expecting an object array. Now, parsing out this code might seem a little difficult to explain what I'm trying to show. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to alias out part of the expression to make it a little bit more clear what's going on. So I'm going to highlight the code that highlight the part of the expression that I want to alias out. I'm going to hit Control-Shift-R and hit V, which is going to extract a variable. And I'm going to tell this variable to be array parameter. Okay, so now hopefully you can kind of see what's going on. It's a two-step process of us extracting this data from Photon. The first step is it's a three-step process. First step is we get the data back from the parameters dictionary from Photon, whatever Photon stuffed back in. Second step is we cast it to a known static type, because parameters is just going to return an object. And an object is, for all intents and purposes, a dynamic type because it's in itself not very useful and all other types inherit from it. So then we cast it into an object array so we can work with it. Then we use two link methods. We extract every string item out of the object array and we turn it into a list. So how do we fix this? We have two scenarios. We want to support. One scenario is we're in memory, and this type right here needs to be the exact type that is used right here. That's the first case. The second case is we're in production. We're working with Photon. In that case, no matter what collection type I stuff into this response parameters, what's going to come out is an object array. So now we have this discrepancy. Is it going to be a list? Is it an object array? How do we decide which one is which, or which one to use? The answer to that is simple. What do both? Well, first, the wrong answer is to come up here and say operation errors.toArray. That's the wrong answer. Now that'll technically make it work, because it'll make it work both in the memory and in production, but it introduces a new object allocation as well as copying a list to an array, which I don't want to do that. What I'm going to do instead is think, well, wait a sec, object array and list are related. They're both collections. They both happen to inherit, or rather implement, the same interface, meaning I can cast both a list of string and an object array into one of the interfaces that they both implement. And that interface is IEnumerable. Meaning, what I can do right here is I can say, instead of object array, cast it into a IEnumerable of object. And now what that'll do is that'll satisfy it both in production and in development, and in testing, rather. Alright, if I exit full screen, let's jump back into our unit tests. By the way, this is the error that you would be getting if the test would fail. It's system invalid cast exception, right on this line right here. Well, the line's different now that I changed the code. Anyway, let's go ahead and run our tests and see what we get. All right, all the tests passed. I'm going to go ahead and hit F6 to trigger a build. I'm going to jump into Unity, and it's going to rebuild or re-import all my awesome stuff. I'm going to hit play, and we are connected. And we can fail, and we can succeed, and everything is awesome. So, yeah, that was a quick video about how we handle that particular error. So hope you guys enjoy the stuff coming up. It's pretty fun, basically talking about code generation, but you'll learn more about that in the next video. So we'll see you then.